Morning. Welcome to Two Doulas and a Midwife. Danielle, Sharon, and I are here today to talk about the wonderful signs of labor and what to expect and when to go to the hospital birth center, call your midwife. We're doing it all today. Very excited. We love hearing moms going to labor. It's the most exciting part, and I think it brings up so much joy for moms. You have so many feelings and this excitement that this is it. This is it. You're going to meet your little one, and it's just a joyful, joyful time. So we're going to go into what to expect, what to feel. Are there cramps? Are there, does your water gush out and baby comes flying out, or is it a gentle process? So we're going to be talking to Sharon and Danielle about that this morning, and just discussing about all those fun things you can do to prepare when the labour starts and what to do. So I'm joined as ever by Danielle Kavanagh and Sharon Massey, and we're going to be talking about all the wonderful things. And I'm going to hand over to Danielle to introduce herself, and then to Sharon, and we can dive into that day, that exciting day when everything starts happening. Danielle, good morning.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. Always lovely to be with you, wonderful ladies. It's one of the favorite parts of my day. And yes, very, very, very exciting. There is nothing more exciting as a doula than having a mom phone you and say, Danielle, I think I might be in labor. And then we start asking all the questions, and so we're going to be discussing that today, which is just very, very exciting. And thank you so much, Sharon, for joining us. We're very excited to hear your expert insights.
Oh, over to me. Thank you so much, everybody. It is very exciting to be here, of course. And you have triggered all sorts of things in just the way that you have been speaking. And of course, from previous talks, we will know that to think about preparing once you're in labor, I think, is just very late. And the preparation, I hope, in an ideal world, of course, would start before the baby is even conceived. But if the baby has been conceived already, then we want the preparation to start as soon as you find out that you're pregnant or you suspect that you're pregnant, because that's a life-changing journey that you're on already. And if you're preparing to be parents, then you're preparing for a birthday. And if we were to embark upon, excuse me, this child's birthday as one of celebration and excitement, then you've already got it in the bag. It's when you're looking forward to an event like this with dread and fear that, of course, you're going to create complications that are not necessary. So we have been looking at how mothers can prepare daughters, how daughters can prepare themselves for the birthing event, and how fathers need to prepare themselves for being the oxytocin provider. Unfortunately, once more, we have so much to blame social media for, because in the modern world, we see, I nearly said TikTok, we see all sorts of those little snippets of videos telling us all the wrong things. And in even sitcoms, we see mothers in the middle of a conversation over dinner when suddenly bang goes the waters and the baby falls out. And unfortunately, and fortunately, that's all rubbish. And so women become afraid to drive anywhere from 36 weeks or to go anywhere because, the baby might come. But nature is much greater than that. And we have signs if we are in tune with our bodies. And we have discussed already on this journey of these podcasts all the changes that are taking place and the relationship that a woman can have with her baby before she meets the child. Sorry, I had milk this morning in my coffee. And so what we have been looking at is she's doing her kick charts, and she has a relationship. She knows when that child is awake. She knows when that child is asleep. She knows the position that her baby is lying in because she knows where the feet are and where she gets her kicks. Her kicks, that's funny. And she will know also from 35 weeks is the first sign that her body is talking to her about preparing for labor. And she will notice that at 35 weeks, she starts to feel stretching, pulling sensations around the girdle pelvic region. And that is the preparation of the ligaments and the cartilages to soften. 36 weeks, she gets more relaxin in her body, which is a hormone that softens the cartilages and the ligaments, and therefore enables the pelvis to open and to spread. I have to go and get my pelvis. Sorry, I can't speak without a pelvis in my hand. Wait. Here I am. Okay, so here is the pelvis. This is a female pelvis. And these bones here, your iliac bones, travel in labor. They open 1 centimeter in each direction. Your sacrum, this whole area here, is going to lift 2 centimeters up in the air and round out. And your coccyx is going to come back in a 90-degree angle like that, so that when a woman is on her hands and knees to birth her baby is going to exit the body like this, down out of her body. And so 35 weeks then is our first introduction to thinking about how am I going to get this baby out of my body. And so warning signs come like period pains. She gets warning signs that her period is going to start. And so she gets warning signs that her labor will start. And this should make her excited because on one hand, nature is telling her that she's not going to be pregnant forever. And, you know, subconsciously, a woman does think, what if I'm the one that never goes into labor? What if it doesn't happen to me? What if I end up in the Guinness Book of Records because I'm still not in labor and it's 47 weeks later? So it's a wonderful celebration for a woman to think, there is preparation going on. And so when these ligaments, so she's got cartilages here, and she's got a whopping great cartilage here, and all of these ligaments that are pulling and holding her pelvis tightly so that she can stand up and walk about are now going to soften. And this means that her pelvis can relax. It's not going to open yet. It's going to relax. And so when she gets up in the morning, she's going to start noticing that she's got to sort of shake out her legs and put them back to where she remembers they should be. And that she needs to be thinking about how she's sleeping because she needs to have enough pillows between her knees so that when she's lying on her side, she's not taking the weight of her femur on the top side and pulling it over her midline, because that's going to pull out her pelvis at the back. Her sacroiliac joint is going to become strained in that case. One has to think of all the words that one is using. And so when her pelvis relaxes 35 weeks and she starts to notice these period pains and loosening and softening and exciting things going on, then that enables her baby to engage at 36 weeks. And that's the next sign that her body is preparing for labor. Until the baby engages, the baby's kept up away from the pelvis on purpose so that they don't fall out by accident. So all of those things that they see in social media, that's all rubbish. So we need to have in a normal, low-risk woman and a healthy woman, the baby starts to drill and she will feel the baby kicking at the top and mining their way down into the pelvis, like that. So we want at that time for the baby to be on the left-hand side because that's an optimal fetal position, like the picture behind me. And we want the baby to engage in the snuggliest, most wonderful way. But that doesn't mean that if the baby engages on the right-hand side, that all is lost and that's it, it's too late. It means that the baby's in an ocean of amniotic fluid, and you still got the opportunity to swing that child around into an optimal fetal position. So she's aware of the loosening in her pelvis, and she's aware at 36 weeks that her baby can engage. Now, this is also a time for celebration because she can now align her dates with her own knowledge of when she conceived this baby and when she is expecting her baby. Because, of course, if we just rely on the scan, childbirth, pregnancy becomes a scientific experiment rather than a miracle that she's participating in. She knows usually what's going on in her life and in her body, and she might not have written down her menstrual cycle, but you know, she's got a good idea as to when to expect her baby. So if her baby is engaging earlier than 36 weeks, then she can usually expect that the baby's going to be coming sooner than 40 weeks. And if the baby's not engaged at 36 weeks, then maybe her dates are out and she's not 36 weeks yet. And maybe she needs to look at that and have a discussion with the scan and the bottom line of all the numbers that they're saying. That every pregnancy in one woman's life will be different, but it will be different every single pregnancy. And you know that when a woman's had 8 babies, she's the one that's quiet when people are asking her, so what are the signs? Because, you know, you don't know what the signs are going to be for this labor or this baby. You just need to know, so what are the possibilities and what do I need to pay attention to, and what is not right and what is not normal and what is totally normal, and I can
The
relax in it and just enjoy the show.
reason
Lisa, what were you saying?
The reason why the number 8 popped into my head, I remember going for one of my midwife visits when I was towards the end of one of my pregnancies. And the midwife said she remembers, she had a client who was expecting her 8th baby, and she phoned her and she said, I'm not sure if I'm in labor. So it's really, it's not like so cut and dry, as Sharon said, and there's so many different ways in which our bodies can show that we're going into labor. Sometimes, one thing happens in one pregnancy and another thing happens in the other. So, but we'll chat all about that.
But I think also that in this modern world that we're living in, the younger generation wants to have boxes to tick, and they want to have a spreadsheet to check on. And if you can see that these are your boxes, 35 weeks, expect to have girdle, stretching, pulling sensations. 36 weeks, expect to have engagement. And 35 weeks is when the baby is going to be the tallest in your body, and you're going to have to try and sit up straight, particularly when you're in the car, because you haven't got that abdominal space to accommodate the baby's bum. And then you can feel, and unfortunately, everybody talks about the baby dropping. It's such an, who would ever want to drop a baby? The image that comes to your head, the baby's going to drop. Oh! So the baby will engage around about 36 weeks, but it's not a trained timetable. And so, we're not expecting it like that. But around about your 36 weeks, the baby will engage, and she will feel the feet pushing at the top and the mining sensation of the drilling of the baby going into the pelvis, and her shape will change. So now she's got a bagginess at the top where her baby's bum was, and she can breathe more easily and she can digest better. And so she's going to be able, less constipated, possibly more hungry, but she's still going to be eating every 2 hours because of the metabolic rate of pregnancy and how she needs to be consuming good calories, not junk food. And so she will find that she will be able to sing again from 36 weeks, but she won't be able to walk in the same way. And that's how we know God is a man, and he finds it very funny to do these things to women. The women who are usually in control and can walk on high heels, now, she walks like John Wayne. And people in pick
Darren,
and
I
will,
like to think that actually it's God's way of telling everyone in this pregnant woman's life to step in and do as much of the walking for her that she needs. If she needs shopping done, and then shopping can be done by someone else. So
yes, I love you.
I like to think of it like that. But I have fond memories of my penguin waddle. And often people tend to think I'm trying to endorse my husband, which I am, because he's a brilliant chiropractor. Not that I'm biased or anything, but chiropractic in general is brilliant for this last stage. It is very safe. Just to have that pelvis adjusted, you can really minimize that discomfort. Even just to have your sacroiliac joints adjusted, it really can make such a difference to have these chiropractic sessions before baby is born. And your chiropractor will know everything, not to, put you into preterm labor. It's just to get it's to help release all that tension that's going on. Because with the relaxing of those ligaments in the pelvis, your other muscles will start tightening to try and compensate for all that relaxing that is going on. So your chiropractor will help just release all of that tension. And it is really, once one of his clients, she put it so beautifully. She said, I don't feel pregnant in my hips anymore after her session. So you don't have to live in complete discomfort and not be able to walk. There are things that you can do to just help relieve some of that pain and tension.
But I think also, in addition to what you've just said, Danielle, when a girl at school is carrying her school bag, that's when her pelvis is developing at its most important time. And in South African schools particularly, they carry a great big, heavy school bag. And it's not chi-chi to have it on both shoulders and look ergonomically sensible. You carry it on one shoulder, and so you tilt your pelvis forward, and so your pelvis rotates. This bone is very often in front of this bone, and so we've got the inlet of the pelvis here where the baby needs to go into in order to engage, and that very often is not oval, it's not symmetrical, because of how she has held herself and carried things in her youth. And so it is very important, I think, that all women, when they are pregnant, see the chiropractor or the osteopath in order to enable their pelvis to work the way that it is designed. Because if we only look at the medical model of childbirth, we talk about cephalopelvic disproportion very often, and that is when a baby's head is too big for a pelvis and a cesarean section will need to take place. But what we never look at from the medical model is the condition of the pelvis. We just look at this is either a gynecological pelvis or this is an android pelvis or pelvis, but we don't look at the condition of the pelvis and give women the opportunity to use their pelvis the way that it is designed to be used. Because if that oval is twisted like that, then a baby can't get in and can't get through and can't get out. But yes, every woman should go to see the chiropractor when she is pregnant so that she knows that her pelvis is going to work. It's not just labeled as too small, because in actual fact, pelvises, we haven't evolved to the place where we have reduced the size of our pelvis. Our pelvis is the same dimensions as previous generations, and we haven't also evolved the average size of a fetus to be bigger than 3.5 kilos. The average size of a full-term infant is 3.5 kilos, which is the same as it has been for generations. And so what has changed is the condition of the pelvis and how it could have been rotated. And so, yes, we should be carrying things on our head and keep ourselves centrally instead of on our shoulders and buckle ourselves when we're developing like that.
I suppose also
And
to be
think-
mindful, Sharon, when carrying toddlers on your hips.
On your
when you're-
hip.
Yeah.
Yes, because we should be tying them on. We should be aware of keeping our skeletons straight and tying that toddler on like they're on a saddle, tying them on one side or rotating them one side, the other side, on the back, on the front, and keep them moving. Yeah. And also being aware of how you get down, particularly from 36 weeks, because you can buckle things so easily with your ligaments all becoming like chewing gum. We can twist things very easily then. And so being aware of moving like your ballet teacher used to tell you, you know, keep your center of gravity in the middle. And now, of course, when the baby engages, so your center of gravity has shifted again and it all becomes central once more. And so, yes, if we're being guided through month by month as to the condition of the pelvis, your body, yes, it's fantastic. It's all straight and working beautifully. Then, you know, there's a box you can tick that's worthwhile. And so the next change then that she'll notice around about 36 weeks is if she is delving into her own body and not just handing it over to other people to help themselves to delve into, then she will notice changes in her cervix. If she is able to get her head down and have a look, she'll notice all sorts of darkening of her body. Her areola will be darkening. She'll have her linea nigrae, which is the traffic line, the navigation line down the center of her belly for her baby to leopard crawl up after they're born and come to the darkening of the areola. She'll have her perineum will darken and everything sort of becomes purplish because of the increase in the blood flow to these areas and the fact that she's got more melanin stimulating hormone and therefore more pigmentation. So everything that darkens is toughening up. And so she doesn't need to do anything particularly to her nipples for breastfeeding. We used to tell you when I first started teaching antenatal classes, we used to tell you to take a nail brush and give your nipples a good rub because that's a good thing to do in order to have a baby come to the breast. Then, of course, you know, we eventually wisened up and realized that that can cause a lot of damage. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for a mother to start handling her breasts and trying or exploring how to get the colostrum expressed with her hand, not with a machine. Because again, that gives her a celebration to realize, look at this, my body is preparing for this baby to be on the outside and not just on the inside. She will be producing colostrum. And if she can get her nipples in the sunshine for 5 minutes every day, then that is the best way to prepare her nipples. She'll notice that Montgomery's tubercles, the little knobbly bits around the areola, are also developing and becoming more knobbly. She wants to not wash her nipples with perfumed soap. Glycerine soap should be the best thing. And that she wants to, if she is expressing in the shower, make sure that there's no crystallization of colostrum because it's very sugary, that it can crystallize on the end of the nipple and she can even get a blocked ductal in her pregnancy. So she's aware, then she's already in front of herself and ahead of the game. So her baby has dropped or has engaged and her shape has changed. Yeah.
Sharon, When
Yeah.
they're doing, you know, seeing the colostrum and all the rest, can we not encourage
Yes.
them to then store their colostrum? You know, that colostrum.
Lovely. Well, I don't, because it's finicky. If I was expecting a baby to be born prematurely, or if we have a mum at risk and her blood pressure is going up, and we know that she's not going to see this pregnancy out to full term, then absolutely, I would get her to express her colostrum and to store it in little syringes, 2 ml syringes, 1 ml syringes, and to label those syringes and to keep them in the syringe packet, and then to keep them in a separate clean Tupperware with the lid on, so that, and put it in the freezer, so that when her baby is born, she's got oodles and boodles of colostrum for that child, because of course those are the children who need it the very, very, very most. And if she's got it ahead of that situation, then that's fantastic. But if we're just expecting a low risk mum to have a full term infant, then there isn't any need, I feel, for her to be expressing and storing, just because it's another thing for her to be doing. And it's just so unnecessary. We want the baby to come to the breast and to have the skin to skin and to enjoy that feeling of feeding, and not see it as, oh, well, I've got this backup in case I need it. I can, top up the baby. Because we never want to go there, do we?
No.
So, how did I get there? Right, so the baby has engaged and the cervix is starting to move about. And so I teach in my classes, the dad does perineal massage from 28 weeks. And at the same time, then, he's they will have discussed, they will have decided, depending on their sexual encounters, whether or not he's checking the cervix, or if she's checking the cervix, and then he's checking the cervix, and they're putting their heads together to see, can I find the cervix? Do I have a cervix? All of those exciting things. And to start with, before 36 weeks, the cervix is tucked up around the back. It is totally posterior. And so women will swear they don't have a cervix because they can't find it and it's not there. But if we consider that the vagina is a blind-ended tunnel, and at the end of that tunnel there is a cervix. So from 36 weeks, it's going to start traveling. It's going to start to become aligned with the vagina. But the challenge comes because as the head engages and burrows down into the pelvis, so it displaces the cervix again. So the cervix might come forward, line up with the vagina, the head comes down, the cervix goes back, the head, if it's not her first baby, goes back up again. And so, it becomes a bit of a challenge. And that's why I think midwives are so wonderful, because they can figure this stuff out. And so if it is her first baby, the baby engages and then keeps going, will keep burrowing deeper, lower, until eventually they're sitting on the cervix. We've got a pressure coming from the baby from the top on the cervix. We've got the Braxton Hicks, which are starting to beef themselves up. Interesting term for a vegetarian, but interesting because the Braxton Hicks are becoming stronger and easier to identify. And if we go back to Braxton Hicks, then, she's having Braxton Hicks contractions all the way through her pregnancy. She has been having Braxton Hicks contractions all the way through her grown-up female life. That her uterus is contracting when she's having sex, and her uterus is contracting when she's having periods. She's just never been aware of it before. She's never felt it because her uterus, or some people do feel it, of course, but her uterus is centrally in her pelvis. And so she's not really aware of it. But from 12 weeks of the pregnancy, the uterus now comes in contact with the abdominal wall, and she can feel her Braxton Hicks contractions. So if we look at the definition of Braxton Hicks contractions, they are painless contractions. Her uterus is working all the time. And when she starts to be aware of it, she will see that everything goes hard. She can sit with her hands on her belly and notice, oh, look at this, it's all gone hard. And that is a Braxton Hicks contraction. So if she is wise, she will realize her body is practicing for this labor. And so her mind needs to keep up with that. And she needs to think, well, how is my mind practicing for this labor? Am I practicing my breathing for this labor? Am I practicing my relaxation techniques for this labor? Because ultimately what we want to have happen is that although her body is going to contract, you can use another word if you like, but I don't see contraction as a bad word. It will contract, and that means there's going to be power involved, and that means there's going to be pain involved. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative thing. We can have a positive association with a pain because it is telling you your baby's coming. That means go somewhere private. Don't be out and pick and pay when you've got these things going on. Go home. Go and make your nest and do your thing because the baby's coming. And of course, if you were going to a hospital, then you've got a different set of rules to look at.
Sharon, one of the things that I like to remind my couples when we're discussing going into labor, especially for the dads, because I think when they see their partners in so much pain, it's often, natural to think, no, this is too much. There must be something wrong. And usually that's what pain does. Pain usually tells us when something's wrong. If you've got a pain in your tooth, that pain is telling you, there's a cavity or you need a root canal, and it's usually not a good thing. When you bash your baby toe against the coffee table during load shedding, that pain is telling you, yeah, you've broken that baby toe. But those contractions, they are there to tell you that your baby is coming closer to you. And even though it can get really hairy and it can get painful, as you said, Sharon, each one of those contractions is telling that couple that their baby is one step closer to coming into their world.
But even if we look at the word contraction, we contract muscles in order to make them stronger. We go to the gym to contract muscles. So contractions are not a negative thing. Contractions are an exciting thing because everything is happening. So whether you want to call it a wave or a surge or whatever, to me it's a contraction because it is contracting your uterus. But what you need to be practicing is that the rest of your body shouldn't be contracting at the same time. When we contract our bodies, then we create pain. If you're going to contract your body and hold it in a tense state, it's going to be painful and you're going to be sore for a long time afterwards. But if you can practice keeping the rest of your body soft, and I tell my mums to be a blob. If you're a blob on the floor, you have no muscle and you are an amoeba, and you're just celebrating your uterus as it contracts. And that is your power. That is your superpower as a woman. I'm not even going to go there. And so that we can move this child down through your body and out of your body. And it is a monumental celebration of strength. I just feel, that if men could do this, we would just never hear the end of it. I'm having a contraction. Instead, they're going to be so strong in established labor that they will fold you over in half and take your breath away. And one of the major challenges of the modern woman is that because she has been to her boot camp gym things and she's thrown herself heart and soul into exercise, she thinks that she's got a very high pain threshold, and that when these Braxton Hicks are painless and they're not really bothering her, that she could be in labor, and that maybe other women are just making a drama out of something which isn't that bad. And then, of course, we all have to laugh at them when they meet real labor. And they are being folded over in half and their breath is being taken away. And you can see, though, that the practice of that when these Braxton Hicks are totally erratic to start with, you have no idea if you're going to have one today. Eventually, from 36 weeks, they are the thing that engages the baby. You're going to have Braxton Hicks contractions in little groups eventually around about 38 weeks. But 36 weeks, you're having stronger Braxton Hicks contractions that you're totally aware of. And if you can practice your breathing and your relaxation and your positions at that time and see that when you're squatting and having a Braxton Hicks contraction, you can feel your pelvis opening, you can feel the pressures being arranged in your pelvis. And then again, you've got this in the bag, the position that you need to be in, you need the direction that you need to get this baby out from, and you can be working with it. And if your intention with your partner is you're putting your heads together to figure out, so what is this cervix doing and what is this baby doing, the shape is changing, and we're practicing our supported squats together. That one of my supported squats I get my mums and dads to do is that she's sitting on his lap, eyeball to eyeball, that her bum is hanging down between his knees. He's got a pashmina around her hips and he's pulling her in, and she's being embraced, and they can have little smooches in between contractions, because then the direction is right, the oxytocin is on the rise, and they're breathing together. So when they're practicing their positions, then there's all sorts of supported squatting positions that they can do, but it can open her pelvis by an extra 28%, and therefore free a hand that's on an ear or a hand that's under a chin, and give her that extra possibility to get a baby out. But going back to the preparation for labor, from 36 weeks, she might notice that she's getting more mucousy in her personal regions. And then we've got all the complications and the debate around what is a show. And a show, in my book, is nothing. Just ignore it. A show does not mean the baby's coming. A show does not mean you're in labor. And a show is going to change in its rainbow color description, that it might be clear, it might be creamy, it might be slightly yellow, and as long as it's not offensive or smelly at the same time, then it's not an infection that you have. As long as it's not itchy at the same time, it's not something you need to pay attention to. If it is any of those things, then do pay attention to it. But a show is, some people are just very mucousy when they are pregnant, and you might notice that you just having what we assume is a show all the way through your pregnancy, and it doesn't mean anything. And for other people, it means that the cervix is now starting to relax. So from 36, 37 weeks, and the cervix is starting to be affected by the change in your hormones, then it starts off as a tight, funnel-shaped organ that has a core down the center that is full of mucus. And you can imagine then, if it's going to start to relax, then that central core is relaxing and the mucus can be released. And that doesn't mean you're having a baby today. So a show means celebrate it and then ignore it. A show is entirely different, though, to blood coming out of the vagina. Blood coming out of the vagina, we all know what blood looks like. We're not going to get confused with, is this blood or is this mucus? Blood coming out of the vagina is never normal and needs to be seen by a doctor. It could be the placenta, it could just be an ulcer on the cervix, it could be just a disturbance after having passion, but it is never normal if it is frank blood coming out of the vagina. You need to see a doctor.
To clarify, we're not talking about, having, your mucus coming out with a little bit of blood tinging that mucus. Exactly. We're talking about bleeding.
Blood. Yes, exactly. And that is the difference. That if it's mucusy, so mucus is tacky. You can do that with it. You can play with your mucus. You can see it coming out of the children's noses when they have a cold. That is mucus. It is stringy. It's like egg white because that it has protein in it. But blood obviously has protein in it, but blood runs. Doesn't have to gush. We don't have to go there to scariness, but it will run. We know what blood looks like coming out of a body. So we're probably looking next week at signs, to pay attention to when we are looking at drama connected with labor and established labor. But if we're just looking at these exciting signs that your body is preparing for this enormous event, this exciting day, this child's birthday, if you're going to remember those things, then part of your preparation is getting your music ready and practicing your aromatherapy smells while you're lying in the bath, practicing all the ways that you can relax. And that is on your hands and knees or child's pose or, opening your pelvis that way. Hands and knees in the bath is a very useful position to practice because you want to know, how do I get my knees comfortable? Can I lie on my side in the bath? Because your bath is a tool. And women use this bath as a tool for so many reasons in their lives. When they're having period pains, they get into a bath. When they've got a headache, they get into a bath. When they need to just separate themselves from life, they get into a bath. And so when a woman is in labor and she is uncomfortable, not in horrific pain, but uncomfortable, then she's getting into a bath, and then she'll get out of a bath and she'll go and do something else. And maybe she'll get back into the bath as she becomes more uncomfortable again. And so normal signs that are developing are period pains continue, backache continues, and not backache in a bad way of a sign of you've buckled something, but backache as in period pains, as in stretching, feeling, opening pelvis, and the mucus coming from the cervix and the cervix changing its composition. It's not tight and long and firm and feels like the end of your nose, but it's going to soften. Its position is going to soften. It's no longer posterior and pointing towards the rectum, but it is traveling and it's going to move into an anterior position and point towards your feet.
And
the baby is going to engage and get deeper.
So I have a wonderful contraption. It is called the Relaxin Sling. And it's a
heard of that.
It's a play on the hormone relaxin. So it was developed by a midwife in Cape Town, and she is also she does yoga for pregnant women. And it is a full body sling. It has arm pieces and a full body piece. And it is designed to literally enable the pregnant woman to go into all these fantastic positions to help her baby get into the right head down to the left position for labor. And they also, it also helps take off some of that pressure from the mom's back and the pelvis, so she can still be in that upright position and not feel, oh God, I just have to sit down or I have to lie down, I'm uncomfortable. So she can still be in that upright position. She can even practice squats because she's completely supported by this fabric. And so it is a brilliant, so you can check out my website, mothersembrace.world, and you can have a look at the Relaxin, and it is fantastic. I always give it to my moms from about 37 weeks, and they can use the Relaxin, especially when they're just feeling exhausted. Some of them may still be working or they're running after, little kids, and it just enables them to completely relax their bodies, but still be in that beautiful upright position, getting baby ready for labor. And then it is also fantastic to be utilized in labor, especially when mom has done like lots and lots of walking and she's exhausted and just needs a bit of a breather. She can still be in that upright position. She can still go into a deep squat because she's completely supported by the fabric. So it is really
And it's very easy to use, Danielle. Is it, user friendly?
Absolutely. It literally, if you have a door in your house that locks, that is all you need. That is the only thing that you need. And it is perfectly safe. You literally throw the weight over the door, close the door, lock the door, and you're ready to go. It is, there's videos that show you how to use it and how to assemble, and it is really such a fantastic tool to use when you're preparing your body to go into labor, and then during labor as well to use.
Wonderful.
So that's 35 weeks, and then 36 weeks, and then 37 weeks, things are just developing further. And 38 weeks is her next milestone of preparation for labor. And 38 weeks is when the placenta then goes past its sell-by date and it starts to decline. And it does that on purpose, because if the placenta was fully functioning and driving on forever, then you would be pregnant forever. But it needs to decline because the output of hormones reduces, and therefore there is a change in the hormones, and we have more oxytocin, more
Sharon, apologies for interrupting you.
Yeah.
I've noticed with a lot of clients that they'll come to me at about 39 weeks. And they've said that their gynaes want to induce because their placentas are starting to calcify.
Yes. So that's a different thing in that we can see, and it depends on your obstetrician, of course, because this is why we're so selective of the obstetricians that we encourage, because there are obstetricians who will tell you that your placenta is maturing, which is normal. And depending on the supplements that you have been taking in your pregnancy, there are those, of course, that will cause the placenta to calcify. Because if you are overdoing calcium, or if you are taking a calcium, which is not a natural chemical, but is a chemicalized calcium that your body cannot digest, then it has to block something. So if we look at when you're not pregnant, calcium can cause renal calculi, as in kidney stones. It can cause gallbladder stones. And when you're pregnant, particularly, calcium can cause the placenta to calcify. And so doctors very often love supplements which are interesting in their calcium component. And of course, with fluoride in the water, and those regions where a woman has fluoride in her water, that is increasing the absorption of calcium. And so we celebrate when a woman's placenta is now calcifying, because then there is a purpose, a reason to induce her. And so if we're keeping then mums on supplements that are nutritionally absorbable, and we're not overdosing calcium, because of course, if the placenta is packing up and is a problem to a baby, and if the baby, because the baby triggers the labor, if the baby's intention was only to be born at 41 weeks, but at 38 weeks the placenta is calcifying, then she's not going to get to 41.
Is that the only reason the placenta would calcify, if you were taking too much calcium?
Well, it is a reason. It is not the only reason. It is a major reason because of a modern diet. Why did placenta is not, and you know, they can pack up. A placenta is a great component of a healthy pregnancy and a healthy labor. And so, yes, of course, at 36 weeks, we normally send our mums to the obstetrician to get the placenta checked. And what we want to know from that, and this is why my mums do a raw diet from 36 weeks, is because if then the placenta is very healthy, is maturing, want to see it maturing, but not calcifying, then it's going to see her through however long she needs before the baby's going to trigger the labor. But if there is a concern about an unhealthy placenta, then yes, we need to have grown-up conversations with mothers to see, so how can we jog you along this pregnancy? How much time can we give it? How do we need to check up again on this particular placenta in order that we don't have heartache, heartbreak, bad things happening from a very mature or a calcified placenta that we told mums not to worry about? Because of course we have the technology to check up on a baby, and perhaps she needs a scan every now and then, every other day, whatever it is that she can discuss with her obstetrician to determine the well-being of this particular child. Is the baby growing well? Is there enough amniotic fluid? Are there other signs that this is no longer a healthy pregnancy, or are we only looking at one factor? So yeah, this is why she needs to select her obstetrician carefully, I think. Anyway.
So now when you see your clients, okay, from
Yes.
36 weeks, do you do scans yourself, or do you get the obstetrician to do the scan to just check on that calcification so that you can
At
make
36 weeks, my
decisions?
mum see the obstetrician because he is going to be the person that has to be called for any emergency. And at 36 weeks, if he can see this is a healthy infant, this is a healthy placenta, there are no signs that we are going to need any kind of involvement, then he's going to reassure her from the medical side of things that she's got every opportunity to have a healthy labor, and that he doesn't expect to see her, that her baby's in a beautiful condition, that as far as we can see, and you know, it's impossible to see where the cord is or if the cord is around the neck, but he can let her know, reassure her that there is no involvement here with the cord. Look, it's all bunched up on your child's chest. You've got a healthy placenta. You've got plenty of amniotic fluid. Things are maturing. You're not going to be pregnant forever. And everything's looking great. And the obstetrician that I use also then will discuss the strep B swab with her at that time. There's plenty of midwives who do the strep B swab for her, but I just lump it all together that I like her to see the obstetrician at 36 weeks because it's going to reassure her that we are a team, that he does his thing, and also that she takes her birth plan then to him at that time so that she can talk about any kind of complication. If she's going to see him in her labor, it's either because she needs a kiwi extraction or a ventouse, or that she's having a cesarean section. And so she needs to discuss with him what will happen, or what can she still have control of should he be the primary caregiver in her labor. With me, she's doing her birth vision for me. And what we're looking at then is when everything is going normally, naturally, how does she want to conduct her labor then? And then we're looking at if it's the middle of the night, if it's the middle of the day, if it's a weekend, if there's people about, if the waters break first, or if the waters don't break, or, you know, how she's going to want to be in charge, in control of her process, her way. When she sees herself managing at at home or traveling to some place that she's going to give birth in that's not home. All of that is her vision. It's like a mirage. It's constantly changing. If this happens, I'll do that. If that happens, I'll do this. So that again, she's got a good composition of everything that might happen. And now we're in established labor and we haven't got there yet. So we're still looking.
We're still looking at the
Sign.
signs of labor. But we have come to the top of the hour, so I'm going to end it off there. But I think we must revisit the signs of labor, because the top ones are, you know, your mucus changing, period pains, feeling
Increase in
I suppose,
contraction.
yeah, feeling those
Yeah.
contractions, disseminating between, are they Braxton Hicks or are they contractions?
What I wanted to say, I just want to include it before we end off, is that at 38 weeks, because of her hormonal changes, she can become extremely premenstrual. And so from an emotional point of view, there is a loud and clear announcement in the house that this woman is not going to be pregnant forever. So, you know, like Danielle said, everybody needs to have hands to the pumps, because, you know, she's not quite herself at this particular time. So maybe she needs an opportunity to go and have a nap, or go and lie in a bath, or just exclude herself from society, go and do her journaling, ask herself questions, do her birth vision. They should be doing their birth vision together, because of course he's a major component of the oxytocin providing. And so they've both got ideas as to how that's all going to come together.
So just if we do a quick go around, and just what did we take away from today? What would you say the top 3 signs of labor are, Danielle?
Well, sorry. Because I was going to say she's not in labor yet. You know, her body is showing signs of preparing for labor. No,
Yeah,
Danielle.
So preparing for labor, because, you know, I mean, obviously we didn't actually talk about membranes rupturing, because you know, even though you know that it does happen, it doesn't quite happen in the movies. You're most likely not going to be in the middle of Pick and Pay, you know, doing your shopping and then clean up on aisle 5. But yeah, definitely when you start noticing your Braxton Hicks more often, you know, sometimes, you know, and personally I remember sitting in a restaurant. It was Mother's Day. I'd taken my mother out for lunch, and she even noticed my face changing. She said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm just having a lot of Braxton Hicks." And she said, "Should I sleep over tonight?" And I said, "No, it's just Braxton Hicks." And poor woman, I ended up calling her at 2:00 in the morning to please come and watch my other son. So I think, you know, definitely when you notice your Braxton Hicks and are very much aware of them, and seeing that change in them, that they're suddenly getting a little more uncomfortable, and they're not necessarily going away when you get into a nice warm bath, which should kind of calm things down. I think that is definitely red alert, that things are happening. We are running out of time, so that is, I think I'd say my top reason, my top sign of going into that it's the real thing, that it's not it's not a false alarm.
Sharon, any last comments?
Well, what we've been looking at, of course, is early labor, which should be a time for celebration, a time for reassurance that you're not going to be pregnant forever. And yeah, a time for deep journaling, conversation, so that they can make sure they're on the same page. And carbo loading, when you're having those stronger Braxton Hicks, is what you need to be doing. Because hypoglycemia will make things feel like they're more dramatic. And we'll talk about that next time.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, next time we'll going into the real thing, what to expect when, and how long do we labor at home and when do we call the midwife. So ladies, as
Exactly.
always, thank you so much. It was wonderful, and we'll see you again soon.
Okie
Bye.
dokie.
Thanks,
you so
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.